How do we train the low back the right way? Well, as we've discussed so far, we've got a repetitive strain nature to the injury. So it's the tissues getting worn down that is essentially causing the lower back, the lower back pain. So if we take that into consideration, so if there is pain in the system, first of all, we have to recover adequately. So we have to recover and allow those tissues to heal. That's sort of like the first part. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean being bedridden, but it means reducing the load going through those tissues by using things like posture, joint alignment, possibly massage, possibly stretching, possibly some light exercise to encourage blood flow to the area. So we need to recover adequately. We also need to minimize pain. And by minimizing pain, I mean not aggravating it. So if you can come to an understanding of how pain occurs, then it's probably a good idea to at least minimize it. So minimize doing it. If you can't sort of minimize doing it, adapt how you do it. And if it's possible, just completely take that trigger out of the equation, if that's possible. The second thing is, once you start doing that and pain is reduced, is then to regain confidence in the low back. And what that means is you need to get full movement back into your body. So you don't avoid things, you don't say, oh, I can't do that because of my back. So you need to rebuild that. And that again can come through adequate and proper training. So it's a very sort of logical and easy thing to suggest, those 3 points. Obviously, the actual practice of it can be different because you need to work things out and things need to be understood. And if you want to gain more insight on that, click the link in the description and you'll go through to my How to Overcome Lower Back Pain workshop, which is a sort of a 3/4 part workshop because we go through a bunch of myths like low back strength. And then we come to an understanding and build the process, the 3-step process of how to overcome lower back pain. So you can go to the description, you can download that, get started. That also opens up and is the prerequisite to my group training as well. So that's part number 1, is if there's pain, number 1, recover adequately, minimize pain, and regain confidence in the lower back. Part 2 is to stabilize the spine. And what that means is to get the muscles active in a static position and in a dynamic position. So with regards to a static position, that could be using exercises like the bird dog, like the plank, like the side plank, like the bridge. Because all we're looking for is we want the supporting muscles doing their job, which is to support the spine, which is to engage at the right time. You could also include farmer's carries in this as well. So we need to get the muscles active with exercises such as the bird dog. Then we need to brace the abdominals appropriately. Now, what can come up here is people can start to go, I don't want to move around like a robot. You shouldn't move around like a robot. We aren't built to move around like a robot. Bracing the abdominals isn't about moving around like a robot. Bracing the abdominals is there to support the spine. And you can move, as long as it's done properly, you can move smoothly, you can move adequately, with braced abdominals, because the important word in there is appropriately. If it's a light activity, you just have a light brace. But if you're lifting a 100 kilo weight off the floor, then you need a heavy brace. So we need to understand the context and the nuance of bracing and bracing appropriately. Number 3, move slowly. When people move quickly, they're often open to jerking, which is when muscles don't activate possibly at the right time and in the right way. That's when then a problem can occur. So we need to be much more conscious of how we move. So we need to move slowly. When we move slowly, muscles can activate more appropriately. So we need to think about it in that way, is moving slowly. So when we lift, we don't just drop to the floor, lift up what we are picking that pen up from the floor. We actually take some time and think about, right, okay, I don't want my muscles to misfire, as it were. I want them to be engaged. I want them to be supporting the spine, so I'm going to move slowly to start with. Now, again, that doesn't mean that you won't be able to move, let's just say, quickly further down the line. It just means at the moment we need to just build stability, so we need to refine that movement. We need to slow it down. We need to be more conscious of it. That will help the muscles activate more appropriately, so that when you move quickly in the future, they'll do it automatically. That's all that means, taking it from a conscious competence to an unconscious competence, if you want to go down the NLP route. The next one is to move from the hips. When we move from the hips, we are able to maintain integrity and alignment of the spine more effectively, which will, certainly in the initial stages, it will help the muscles of the spine to activate more appropriately. So they're all sort of working together in this feedback loop, because moving slowly helps the muscles. Moving from the hips helps the muscles. Moving from the hips helps the stability. Moving slowly helps with the stability. So you can see how it all sort of converges in the same direction to be able to do essentially the same thing. Then over time, which is what I mentioned with regaining confidence again, which is then sort of regaining and increasing your movement variety. So you may move like a robot. I know I'm not supposed to say that, and people will object to me saying that, but that's fine. But that's a useful place to start, because again, it gives you that conscious competence. You're able to then build out from there. It also helps with the first stage, which is minimizing pain. Some movement may give you pain. So initially, and remember that word for the people that are objecting, initially it's probably worth not doing that, or at least minimizing it. And then over time, bring it back in. When the pain has been wound down, when the tissues have healed, that is then when you build out your movement variety. What we need to get it is a comfort zone to start with, and then we need to build that comfort zone out, so every single movement that a human can do and should do is in your comfort zone. We just need to restrict it for a short period of time, then we can get back to that. Once we've stabilized the spine, we then put endurance into the muscles. So we get them working submaximally over a prolonged period of time. That is what's going to resist the fatigue and resist the microtrauma buildup and resist that repetitive strain nature to a low back injury. So we need to put the endurance back into the muscles. What you will also get, one of the reasons why people think they have a weak back is because, one, it's unstable, and two, the tissues are fatigued. So the body just locks up and just holds everything tight. As you remove the fatigue, as you heal the tissues, as you build the endurance, muscular strength will just come back. It will come back naturally, because the body will realize that the spine doesn't need to be held in that way anymore. It may require a bit of assistance with like a deep tissue massage in the area to release the muscle. That I understand, being a sports massage therapist. But essentially, you need to allow all that to get out the way, and then the strength will just come back naturally. So we build the endurance. Now, how do we build endurance? Well, we can build it in a number of ways. With regards to the session, we can build the frequency of sessions. So from 3 days a week to 5 days a week. If we're doing 7 days a week, but very short sessions, we can build the duration of 3 of those sessions. Then when it comes to the exercise, we do the number of sets, so we can make the sets more, we can make the reps more, we can make the time held for longer, and we can also do the number of exercises within the workout. All of that will build the endurance, because you've got the muscles working for a longer period. And then if you're doing then that multiple times a week, again, you're building the endurance. But the most important thing is to recover adequately, because exercise will start to build micro traumas. Recovery will heal them. You have to get that in balance. If you do too much exercise, not enough recovery, you won't recover, and your tissues will burn out, which got you into the situation anyway. If you If you recover too much and just sit at your desk all day and you don't do any exercise and build resilience in your tissues, that will cause the problem as well, because you haven't got the resilience in the tissues to do it. So you have to get exercise and recovery balanced. So you have to stabilize, you have to build endurance, you have to recover adequately, which is what I mentioned at the start. And then finally, you can then start adding strength on top, which is your ability to resist more external load. So you can start to really start building the weight and the resistance to exercises. Now, as I mentioned, strength will start to come back naturally anyway, so you will start increasing external load, but we're not doing it in a strength environment, we're doing it in an endurance environment. What we are then able to do is go all out strength, so all out heavy resistance, because that's what strength training is by definition. So you can hopefully understand by now how I've got to the conclusion that strength isn't the answer, because it's not that style of training. Even most people that say get stronger, you need a stronger lower back, they then prescribe endurance and stability exercises. So they're sort of doing the right thing, but they've misunderstood how they've got there, because they don't understand the definitions. But hopefully what you've gone through today is a congruent thread of information which has been referenced down in the description below, that builds a suitable rationale of how to train a lower back, and not only how to do it, but why doing it. Because this is why I will question people's rationales to their comments below if they're negative, let's say, because I don't think people have a sensible rationale that backs up what they're saying that's sort of well justified, if that makes sense. People can throw scientific articles at me. Again, I can critique that, it's not a problem. So it's very much coming to that sort of understanding. So if you've liked the information, please do hit the like button. If you've got a question or a comment about anything that I've said, if there's anything that you've sort of found insightful, hit that down in the description below, because again, it's useful for me to understand what people are finding insight in. So that's really useful for me, and then I can start building more content around that to make more insightful information, in a sense what you're looking for, because in a sense that's kind of what it's about. It's trying to give you the right information, but also give you the information that you need and want. And if there's any new insights, then yeah, please do fire them through. That would be great. So many thanks for watching. I hope this has been helpful. I hope you've been able to sort of gain some information from it. And as I mentioned before as well, if you want to learn more about this, click the link in the description and go through to my my How to Overcome Lower Back Pain workshop, which is basically the starting point to overcoming lower back pain, or the journey with me certainly, and then you can qualify for my group training, which will be released periodically through the year. So many thanks for watching. My name is Chris. I'll speak to you in the next tutorial. If you want to learn more about how to overcome your lower back pain, please click the link in the description. You'll go through to my How to Overcome Lower Back Pain workshop, which takes you on a deeper dive into this type of information. It's 4 parts. There's myths, and then there's the 3-part process of how to overcome lower back pain that I use with people that I work with. And what it also does is opens you up to my group training if you so wish to do that. You don't have to. You can just download the workshops, complete those, and go about overcoming your lower back pain as you see fit. Or you can choose to come on the group training with me. So if that sounds like something you'd like to do, please do just click the link in the description.